So, imagine you're just standing in your living room, right?
Okay.
And you are literally ankle deep in water.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the roof is actively caving in. The drywall is completely rotting out. The joists are splintering everywhere. And you're just standing there, like agonizing over whether to hang velvet drapes or sheer linen curtains to, really tie the room together.
That is, I mean, it sounds completely absurd, right? Like a cartoonish level of denial.
Exactly. It's totally ridiculous. But the thing is, when we talk about fixing our lives, like
Yeah.
getting our physical or mental or, professional houses in order, we literally do this every single day.
We really do.
We'll go out and buy a brand new daily planner, or we download some trendy meditation app.
Or start drinking like a very specific type of green tea.
Yes, the green tea. And we convince ourselves that, wow, we are really fixing things. But, I mean, those are just the curtains.
Right.
We're entirely, completely ignoring the fact that the roof is falling in.
Well, and I think we gravitate toward the curtains because, they're manageable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Choosing velvet over linen is this low-stakes decision that you can just execute in an afternoon.
It
feels good.
like a little dopamine hit.
Exactly. But addressing a rotting ceiling joist, I mean, that requires demolition.
Yeah, messy.
Right. It requires expertise. And honestly, it forces you to acknowledge that the very structure keeping you safe is currently compromised. And, we live in a culture that fundamentally prioritizes interior decorating over structural engineering.
Wow. Yeah, interior decorating over engineering. That hits hard.
Especially when it comes to personal development.
Which actually brings us to the real blueprint we're looking at today. For you listening, we know you want the deep insights without just drowning in endless fluff. So we are zeroing in on something incredibly concentrated for this deep dive.
Very concentrated.
Yeah, we are not looking at some sprawling, 10-step program today or a massive 500-page psychological manual.
No, not at all.
We literally just have a handful of words. Specifically, it's the title of a work called The Architecture of a Restored Life. And its blunt accompanying premise, which is just how to fix your life.
That's it.
That is the entirety of our source material today. 6 words in the title, 5 words in the premise.
And, when a concept is boiled down to that degree, I mean, down to its absolute essence, the semantic weight of every single syllable just becomes immense.
There's no room for filler.
Exactly. The author is intentionally choosing to frame the entire concept of, human repair through this very specific, very rigid and demanding vocabulary.
So let's look at the first major structural choice in that vocabulary, the word architecture.
Right.
The architecture of a restored life. I mean, the word isn't process.
No.
It isn't journey or habits.
Or hacks. People love hacks.
Oh, right, life hacks. It's not that. It's architecture. And if we actually take that word seriously, I feel like it completely shifts the paradigm of what it means to improve.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Because architecture isn't spontaneous.
Right. Right. You don't just walk onto an empty dirt lot, grab a hammer, and start blindly nailing 2x4s together.
Hoping a skyscraper just magically emerges.
Yeah.
Because doing that literally guarantees a collapse.
Right.
Architecture is really the triumph of design over mere effort. And I think this is a massive, massive distinction.
Say more about that. Effort versus design.
Well, so often when people feel like their lives are misaligned or failing or they're just exhausted.
Which is most people, honestly.
Right. Their immediate instinctive response is just to exert more effort. They decide they just need to wake up at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, the classic hustle culture advice.
Exactly. They think they need to push through the burnout. They just need to hustle harder. Yeah. They treat their life like it's an effort problem.
But, okay, if the underlying architecture of a building is fundamentally flawed, like, say, a load-bearing wall is just in the completely wrong place.
Right.
Or the foundation is poured on, I don't know, a literal swamp.
Yeah.
Pushing more weight onto that structure doesn't make the building stronger.
No, it accelerates the failure.
Exactly. The harder you work within a broken architecture, the faster you bring the whole roof down on your own head.
And that is the tragic irony of the whole hustle mentality.
Yeah.
Because you see people putting in these heroic amounts of effort, right? Burning immense calories. But because the design of their life is structurally unsound, all that incredible energy is just channeled into tearing themselves apart.
Wow.
A design problem cannot be solved by effort. It can only be solved by a better blueprint.
So, if a person is constantly exhausted or constantly snapping at their family or chronically stressed about money,
Right.
they shouldn't immediately just try to, try harder to be patient or work harder to make cash.
No, they need to look at the geometry of their life.
The geometry, I like that. Which makes me think about how an architect actually starts a project, you know? They don't start by drawing cool sketches.
No, they don't.
They start by surveying. They literally have to know the soil. Like, if the soil is sandy, you can't build a heavy stone structure on it without it just sinking.
And that soil test is completely non-negotiable in physical architecture.
Right.
And it is just as non-negotiable in the architecture of life.
So what is the soil in this context?
In this context, your soil is your baseline reality.
Okay.
It's your physiological state, it's your neurological wiring, your unresolved past experiences, and just your current basal energy levels.
Okay, so if my soil is fundamentally sandy, meaning, let's say, right now I'm operating on 5 hours of sleep a night.
Which is sandy soil.
Very sandy. And I have unaddressed anxiety, and my baseline nervous system is constantly stuck in fight or flight mode.
Right, right.
And then I decide I want to build this massive, heavy new structure on top of that. Say I'm going to launch a tech startup or radically overhaul my entire physical fitness routine and train for a marathon.
You are going to create a sinkhole?
A sinkhole.
Because the environment simply cannot bear the load of the structure you're attempting to build.
Wow. Yeah.
An architectural approach demands that you either alter the ambition of the building, make it lighter, make it smaller, more flexible, or you do the grueling, totally invisible work of changing the soil. You literally have to drive pilings deep into the bedrock.
So what does that look like practically?
It means you spend 6 months just stabilizing your sleep and regulating your nervous system before you lay a single brick of that new startup.
But that's invisible work.
It is.
And that is exactly why people hate it. I mean, nobody drives by a construction site, looks at a deep, muddy hole in the ground filled with concrete pilings and says, wow, what a beautiful building.
Exactly.
We want the visible progress. We want the shiny exterior glass. We want to post it on social media.
But the glass shatters if the pilings aren't there.
Yeah.
And, this actually brings up another crucial concept in structural design that translates perfectly to the source material's premise.
What's that?
Load paths.
Oh, load paths. Okay, right. So if a load path in a physical building is the literal route that gravity takes.
Yes.
Like the weight of the snow on the roof pushes down on the trusses, right?
Exactly.
And the trusses transfer that weight to the exterior walls.
Good.
And the walls transfer it down to the foundation, and the foundation transfers it into the earth.
Wait.
The weight has to go somewhere.
Always. It never just vanishes.
Right, so a psychological load path must be the route that stress and pressure take through our own lives.
Exactly. Stress, responsibility, emotional pressure, all of that is the gravity of the human experience.
Oh, that's a great way to put it, gravity.
They possess actual mass. When you take on a new project at work, or when you experience a sudden financial shock, that is a heavy snowstorm landing right on your roof.
And that weight doesn't magically disappear just because you ignore it or put on your noise-canceling headphones.
No, it enters your psychological structure, and it's absolutely going to follow a load path.
So if I don't consciously design a column to catch that stress, it's just going to crash through the nearest fragile thing. Like,
Right.
Okay, let's say my boss screams at me on a Tuesday.
A massive load of stress.
Huge load. And if I haven't engineered a load path, like I don't have a decompression routine or a solid boundary or even just a therapeutic outlet, that stress just crashes through my structure.
Unimpeded.
Right. It hits my nervous system, completely floods me with cortisol, and then I carry it home and the load transfers to my spouse because I, snap at them over dinner.
Yeah.
And the stress finally exits my structure by fracturing my relationship.
And you have just described an unengineered load path.
It's terrifying when you put it like that.
Because the stress just found the path of least resistance.
You're right.
And it damaged the interior of the building on its way to the ground.
Yeah.
When the source material talks about the architecture of a life, it is demanding that you become a conscious engineer of these paths.
You can't just be a passive observer.
Right. When you look at your calendar and see a high-pressure week approaching, the architect doesn't just look at it and say, well, gee, I hope I survive.
Which is what we all do. Just got to get through this week.
Right. But the architect asks, where is the load of this week actually going to travel? And what BAMEs am I installing today to bear it safely?
So practically, that might look like explicitly telling your family, hey, this week is a heavy snowstorm on the roof.
Yes, communicate the load.
So I am installing a temporary support beam by ordering takeout for the next 3 nights so we don't have the stress of cooking. And I need 30 minutes of absolute silence when I walk through the door to just let the tension dissipate.
You are literally building a structural framework to manage the psychological gravity.
And notice how different that is from just buying curtains.
Oh, complete?
Buying curtains is saying, ugh, I'm going to buy a nice bath bomb to reward myself after this awful week.
And hey, the bath bomb is fine.
Right, bath bombs are great, but it doesn't change the physics of the pressure that is currently crushing your house.
Only architecture changes the physics.
Man, that's powerful. But wait, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
If we are architects and we realize our current house is just fundamentally unsound, like the load paths are a mess, the soil is super sandy, the roof is leaking everywhere,
Yeah.
why aren't we just bulldozing the site? Because the text specifically says the architecture of restored life.
Yes.
It doesn't say a replaced life. It doesn't say a brand new life.
Yeah.
And that single word restored, it feels like it completely changes the architect's job description.
It really does, and it introduces this profound philosophical tension into the text.
How so?
Because to restore something is a radically different act than replacing it. In our modern consumer culture, replacement is just the default.
Oh,
If
100%.
a toaster breaks, you throw it away. If a phone gets slow, you upgrade it. The implicit logic of replacement is that once an object is damaged or weathered, it somehow loses its intrinsic value.
And we apply that exact same logic to ourselves.
We absolutely do.
We are constantly being sold the idea of total reinvention. New year, new you.
Shed your old self.
Become unrecognizable. The entire self-improvement industry is basically built on the premise of psychological demolition.
It really is.
It tells you that the current version of you, the one that is tired or anxious or, has made mistakes, is basically garbage, and you just need to bulldoze it to build a sleek, shiny, perfect new human on the empty lot.
Which is incredibly traumatic.
Yeah, I bet.
Living in a constant state of personal demolition creates severe identity fragmentation. You're constantly discarding parts of your history, constantly alienated from your past. But the word restored actively rebels against that.
Right.
To restore a piece of historic architecture implies that the original material, no matter how battered or neglected or weathered it is, possesses immense, irreplaceable value.
So the source material is essentially affirming the inherent worth of the reader right out of the gate. It's saying your history, your scars, the weird eccentricities of your personality, even your massive failures, that is not garbage to be hauled off to the dump. That is literally the raw, valuable material we are going to use to build the final structure.
It honors the original material. But this is also where people often misunderstand restoration.
Oh.
They assume a restored life means somehow reverting to an earlier state, like stripping the paint off a classic car to make it look exactly like it did the day it rolled off the assembly line in 1968.
Oh, wow. Which sounds terrible when applied to a human.
Right.
Like if I think about the 22-year-old version of myself, sure, I had more energy and much better knees.
We all miss the knees.
I really miss the knees. But I was also incredibly naive. I was deeply insecure, and I made terrible, terrible decisions.
Exactly.
I have absolutely no desire to restore myself to that previous state. It feels like moving backward.
And this is exactly why the pairing of the two words, architecture and restored, is the masterstroke of this text.
Okay, unpack that.
We cannot think of restoration as merely polishing up an antique. We have to think of it as a structural architect would.
Give me an example.
Consider the restoration of a centuries-old masonry building that's located in an earthquake zone.
Okay, so you have this beautiful historic brick building. It's got history, character, a soul.
Right.
But the unreinforced brick will instantly shatter and collapse the next time the ground shakes.
Exactly. If you just polish the exterior and fix the broken windows, which is a superficial restoration, you are being negligent. You are leaving the building incredibly vulnerable.
So what does an architect do?
An architectural restoration engages in what is called seismic retrofitting.
Seismic retrofitting.
Yes, you preserve the exterior, you honor the aesthetic and the history, but you fundamentally alter the internal physics of the structure. You literally hollow out the center of those historic brick walls, and you pour in modern reinforced concrete. You weave steel tension rods through the original timber.
Wow. So you are marrying the character of the past with the absolute resilience of the present.
Yes. The restored building does not look brand new. It still has the weathered bricks. It still shows its age. But its structural integrity is exponentially higher than it was the day it was originally built.
That's incredible.
It can withstand forces that would have utterly destroyed its original incarnation,
That is such a phenomenal mental model for human psychology.
isn't it?
If we are doing a seismic retrofit of a human life, we're taking those original traits. Let's say you have a natural tendency to be deeply empathetic.
Okay, great example.
That's a beautiful, historic brick wall in your personality. But unreinforced empathy is a massive structural vulnerability.
Oh, absolutely.
It makes you prone to manipulation, it leads to massive burnout, and you end up just absorbing everyone else's emotional gravity until you literally collapse.
So you don't bulldoze the empathy.
Right.
You don't say, well, I'm just going to become a cold, unfeeling sociopath because empathy hurts too much.
Which is the replacement mindset.
Exactly.
Instead, you retrofit the empathy. You drill into it, and you pour in the reinforced concrete of rigid, non-negotiable boundaries.
Yes.
You install the steel tension rods of self-advocacy. So the empathy is still the exterior. You are still the person who cares deeply. But the internal physics have completely changed.
That's beautifully said.
When someone tries to dump an unfair emotional load onto you, the steel beams of your boundaries catch the weight before it crushes your core.
And the restored version of you is fundamentally stronger than the original ever was.
I love that.
It requires integrating your past, not erasing it. The experiences that broke you, the traumas, the failures, the burnouts, those are the seismic events that revealed where your original architecture was weak.
They're diagnostic events.
Right. The restoration process uses the knowledge of those collapses to design a structure that will never fail in that exact same way again.
It is a deeply compassionate framework, but honestly, it is also relentlessly demanding.
Yeah, it's hard work.
It is, and that actually brings us to the real pivot in the source material, because we have been sitting in this very elevated, academic, almost poetic space.
Right.
The architecture of a restored life. It sounds like something you'd read in a philosophy seminar, but then the text immediately hits you with its premise, and the tone just violently shifts.
It really does.
It simply says, how to fix your life.
The juxtaposition is brilliant, honestly. It pulls the reader completely out of the clouds and just slams them directly onto the pavement.
It's so blunt. We go from the philosophy of retrofitting historic masonry straight into the 3.0 BAM panic Googling syntax of someone who is just desperate.
Yes.
How to fix your life. It is completely stripped of all poetry. It is pure, raw pragmatism.
It's because the author understands the reality of the human condition, right?
Yeah.
People do not seek out personal development material because they are perfectly content and just want to ponder abstract design theory over coffee.
No, nobody does that.
They seek it out because they are in pain. Their roof is leaking. Their foundation is cracking. They want the leak stopped. They want a fix.
Right.
And by presenting this blunt premise immediately after the elevated title, the text is making a very specific, very bold promise.
Which is?
We're going to use the rigorous, high-minded tools of architecture to deliver tangible, real-world relief.
But the word fix is kind of a trap.
Well, completely.
Because culturally, our definition of a fix is entirely transactional. Like, if I am driving down the highway and I run over a nail, I get a flat tire.
Classic flat tire scenario.
Right, so I pull over, I patch the hole, or I put on the spare. It takes me 20 minutes. The problem is fixed. I get back in the car, I turn the radio back on, and I never, ever think about that tire again.
Because the fix was an event.
Exactly. It had a distinct beginning, middle, and end. And when we read How to Fix Your Life, our exhausted brains instantly crave the flat tire fix.
We want the silver bullet.
We really do.
We want the one weekend retreat, the one profound conversation, or the one magical organizational system that will permanently patch the hole in our anxiety or our marriage, allowing us to just drive on without ever looking back.
But if we extrapolate the meaning of the word fix, by viewing it through the architectural lens the text just established, the flat tire model completely disintegrates.
It does. Because patching a tire is a superficial fix.
Yeah.
I mean, it is necessary in the moment, sure,
Yep.
but it does not change the nature of the vehicle.
Okay, let's extend the analogy then.
Sure.
You patch the tire and you drive away. But what if you are getting a flat tire every single Tuesday? Every single week, another blowout.
Right.
And you just keep applying the superficial fix. You keep patching it.
At that point, the patch isn't fixing the problem at all.
Mm.
It's masking a systemic failure.
Yes.
If my tire blows out every week, I have to look deeper. Maybe the axle of the car is actually bent, causing the rubber to grind against the wheel well. Or maybe the route I drive to work every Tuesday takes me through some industrial zone littered with scrap metal and nails.
So to truly fix the recurring flat tire, you cannot focus on the rubber.
Right.
You have to align the axle. You have to change the geographical route. You have to literally alter the structural conditions that are generating the damage in the first place.
And that is an architectural fix.
And think about how many of us are living our entire lives just constantly patching tires.
Oh, almost everyone.
Let's say you have a massive panic attack at work because you are just drowning in responsibilities. So you take a 3-day mental health weekend.
Right, the patch.
You go to a cabin, you turn off your phone, you hike in the woods. That is the patch. You feel better. But then Tuesday morning rolls around and you go back to the exact same office.
With the exact same workload.
And your exact same inability to say the word no to your boss.
And 2 weeks later, another panic attack. Another blowout.
Because the architecture wasn't fixed.
Right?
The bent axle in this scenario is your psychological inability to tolerate the discomfort of setting a professional boundary. And the scrap metal on the road is the toxic culture of your workplace. Until you do the structural work of realigning your boundary mechanisms or the geographical work of actually finding a new job, you are going to be patching tires until the vehicle completely falls apart.
And this highlights the exact difference between a superficial fix, which addresses the symptom, and a structural fix, which addresses the load path.
Yeah.
How to fix your life in the context of this source material is an instruction manual for identifying the bent axles. And fixing a bent axle requires a massive diagnostic effort.
Okay, well, let's actually do that. Let's walk through the HOW because the listener wants the signal.
Let's get into it.
If they are sitting there right now realizing they have been, buying curtains and patching tires, how do they actually execute an architectural fix? What does a structural diagnostic look like in practice?
Well, it begins with what we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
the architectural survey.
Yeah.
But we need to make it incredibly granular. An architect does not just walk into a building, look around, and casually say, oh, looks bad, let's change some things.
Right, they don't just eyeball it.
No, they measure every single dimension. They physically test the materials. If you are going to survey your life, you have to break it down into its core structural components.
Which are?
Your resources, your load-bearing beliefs, and your environmental envelope.
Okay, let's start with resources. In a physical building, this is like the budget, the physical materials, the square footage. In a human life, what are the architectural resources?
Time, physical energy, and cognitive bandwidth.
And those are very finite materials.
Extremely finite. The biggest structural error people make is drafting a life blueprint that literally requires 30 hours a day and infinite energy, and then they completely hate themselves when the math doesn't work out.
Oh, that is so painfully common.
Right. So the survey starts by ruthlessly auditing where your resources are actually going, not where you wish they were going.
So it's the difference between looking at your ideal fantasy schedule and your actual literal bank statement of time.
Exactly.
If you say your priority is health, but your time audit shows you spend 4 hours a day scrolling on a screen and 0 hours moving your body, your structure is telling the truth.
Yes.
Your stated priorities are just an illusion. The building is made of screen time, not exercise.
Precisely. And once the resources are honestly audited, you move to the most dangerous part of the survey.
Which is?
Identifying the load-bearing beliefs. In any structure, there are decorative columns, and there are columns that are literally holding up the entire roof.
Okay.
If you remove a decorative column, nothing happens. It's just aesthetics. But if you remove a load-bearing column, you die.
Wait, how does a belief hold up the roof of a life? Give me an example of a load-bearing belief.
Okay, consider a person whose entire professional success, their financial stability, and their social standing are all built on one core belief.
What's the belief?
My value as a human being is strictly determined by my productivity and my usefulness to others.
Oof.
Yeah.
That is an incredibly common one. I think half our listeners just gasp.
It is everywhere, and it is structurally massive.
Yeah.
That belief is a huge, concrete pillar. It holds up their career trajectory. It dictates their marriage dynamics because they constantly try to earn love by just doing things for their partner.
Right.
It holds up their daily schedule. Literally everything in their life relies on that single column.
But it's a toxic column. I mean, it's concrete, sure, but it's full of rebar that is just rusting from the inside out. It's inevitably driving them toward a physical or emotional collapse.
Exactly. It's toxic, but it is load-bearing. Now, suppose this person reads a generic self-help book that says, you need to relax. You are worthy just for existing. Stop working so hard.
The curtains advice.
Right. And they decide, right then and there, to adopt that new philosophy. They try to instantly rip out that old load-bearing column of productivity-based worth.
Oh, I see where this is going. The entire roof comes crashing down.
Total structural failure.
They experience an absolute psychological crisis. Because if they aren't producing, and their entire life has been structured around producing, they suddenly feel utterly worthless.
Yes.
Their anxiety skyrockets, their relationships become deeply confusing because they literally don't know how to interact without being useful, and their career stalls out.
And this is exactly why so many attempts at fixing our lives fail so spectacularly.
We try to demolish things too fast.
We try to demolish load-bearing structures without putting up any temporary supports first.
Yeah.
We try to change a fundamental belief without understanding the mechanical role it plays in keeping our daily reality upright.
So the architectural approach, the actual how-W of fixing your life, is that you don't just grab a sledgehammer and smash the toxic column.
No, you survey it.
You say, wow, okay, this belief that I have to be perfect to be loved is currently holding up my entire marriage and my job. It's killing me, yes, but it is doing massive structural work.
Right.
So before you remove it, you have to consciously build a new healthy support column right next to it.
You start shifting the weight. You install a new beam. Perhaps it's a practice of intrinsic self-worth, cultivated through intense therapy. Or maybe just establishing small pockets of time where you are allowed to just exist without producing anything.
Yeah.
And you slowly transfer the psychological gravity from the rotting column over to the new healthy column. And only when the new beam is fully bearing the weight can you safely dismantle the old belief.
That is meticulous. That is so slow.
It's very slow.
But it makes sense. And that brings us to the final part of the structural survey, the environmental envelope.
Yes. Yeah.
So in a physical building, the envelope is the exterior walls, the roof, the windows, basically the things that separate the interior climate from the chaotic weather outside, right?
Exactly. In human architecture, the envelope is your boundary system. It is the mechanism that dictates what external chaos is actually allowed to enter your internal space. If a building has no envelope, it is just an open pavilion. The wind blows right through it. If it rains outside, it rains inside.
That describes so many people's emotional states. So many.
If their boss is angry, they are instantly angry. If the news is terrifying, they're utterly terrified. If their partner is anxious, they just absorb all that anxiety.
Yep.
They have zero envelope. The weather outside completely dictates the climate inside.
And if you have no envelope, you cannot control your internal climate. It does not matter how many meditation apps you download. If the windows are totally smashed and a literal blizzard is blowing through your living room, deep breathing will not keep you warm.
No.
Fixing your life architecturally requires sealing the envelope.
Which means learning how to say, your crisis is not my crisis.
Yes.
Or, I am logging out of this email account at 6 p.m. and whatever fires are burning in the office can just wait until tomorrow. You're literally putting up drywall to keep the wind out.
And once the envelope is sealed, once the resources are audited, and once those load-bearing beliefs are identified and stabilized,
Then, and only then, does the actual restoration begin. This is why the premise, how to fix your life, is an ongoing practice, not a one-time event. You don't just build a house and then abandon it. You maintain it.
you check the gutters. You look for water damage in the basement.
Right.
Fixing your life is a verb. It's a continuous state of maintenance. It is a daily checking of the blueprints. It is waking up and realizing that yesterday's boundary might actually need some reinforcement today.
And it places the ultimate responsibility squarely on the individual.
Yay.
No one is coming to draw the blueprints for you.
No one can.
No one can conduct the survey of your internal load paths but you. It is daunting, I know, but it is actually the ultimate antidote to helplessness.
It truly is, because when you are feeling just overwhelmed by the frantic, chaotic need to fix every single broken thing in your life simultaneously,
Which we all feel.
when the tires keep popping and the roof is leaking and the whole internet is just screaming at you to buy more curtains, zooming out to view your life through this architectural lens just changes everything.
It alters your relationship with time, and it drastically lowers the emotional temperature of your anxiety.
It gives you permission to stop scrambling. You don't have to rebuild the entire skyscraper by sunset today.
No.
Today, your only job might be to sit in the dirt and test the soil. Tomorrow, your job might just be to locate one single rotting joist. It is methodical. It respects the massive complexity of who you are, and it honors the inherent value of the materials you are working with.
Architecture is discipline. Restoration is grace. And fixing is action. The text demands that we integrate all three.
Which brings us to the final question. We promised you, the listener, the deep signal today, and we've walked through the mechanics of a complete structural diagnostic. But, ideas only matter when they actually hit reality.
Absolutely.
So as you move back into the gravity of your actual life today, I want you to think about those columns we discussed.
The load-bearing structures.
Yes. Do not attempt a massive demolition today. Do not quit your job or end a relationship or completely overhaul your life simply because you feel the cracks.
Please don't.
Instead, step into the role of the architect. Take out your flashlight and walk down into your own basement. What is the single most critical, potentially toxic, load-bearing belief holding your current reality together?
Is it the fear of disappointing others?
Is it the belief that rest must be earned through suffering?
Identify the column.
Identify it. Just stare at it. Acknowledge the incredible heavy work it has been doing to keep you standing all these years. And then ask yourself, before I start swinging a sledgehammer to tear this thing down, how exactly am I going to reinforce the roof?
What new healthy beam do you need to start building right next to it today?
Because true restoration is never about surviving a collapse. It is about engineering a stronger way to stand.
Perfectly said.
Stop buying curtains. Look at the roof. Until next time, keep digging deep.